Good morning, my dear students. In this lecture today, we will discuss about the second chapter from your book, First Flight, and the name of this second chapter is Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. And the name of the author is Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Dear students, this chapter has been taken from Nelson Mandela's autobiographical book of the same name, Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. It provides us a glimpse of the early life of Nelson Mandela, his education, 30 years in prison, and the pains he had suffered in his young age. The chapter recounts his fight for the freedom for his own people who were tortured by whites. In the chapter, Mandela gives two contradictory pictures of his own country. One in which the blacks were tortured and suffered quietly, and second, the blacks will be free to live the life of their own. Now, dear students, let us discuss this chapter in detail. Students, 10th May dawned. It was bright and clear. Many world leaders had been coming to the author, that is Nelson Mandela, to pay respects to him. It was before the inauguration ceremony. The inauguration was to be the largest gathering of world leaders in South Africa. Now let us talk about the place of inauguration. The inauguration ceremonies took place in a big open building in Pretoria. Here the South Africa's first democratic non-racial government was to be installed. Then came the swearing-in ceremony. On that day, the author was in the company of his daughter Zenani. Mr. De Klerk was first sworn in as second deputy president. Then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. It was the author's turn then. He was sworn in as the president. He pledged to obey and uphold the Constitution of South Africa. He also pledged to devote himself to the well-being of his countrymen. In his address, the author, that is Nelson Mandela, spoke of the newborn liberty of South Africa. He thanked all the international guests. He said that they had come there to be with his countrymen. It was the common victory for justice, peace, and human dignity. He pledged to liberate his people from poverty, suffering, discrimination, and all the social evils prevailing before in this country. After a few moments, colorful South African jets and helicopters flew over the Union buildings there. It was for military's loyalty to democracy for a new government. Then the highest military generals, having medals on their chests, saluted the author. He thought that they would have arrested him during the apartheid era. The change in their attitude was because of the struggle and sacrifices put in by many heroes of South Africa. This struggle not only ensured the freedom of a nation struggling with apartheid, but brought a change in the mindset of many. He believed that love can also be taught, and human being is naturally inclined towards love rather than hate. This day was symbolized for the author by the playing of two national anthems. The whites sang their national anthem, that is Nkosi Sikelel, and the blacks sang their own national anthem, means Die Stem. These formed the old anthems of the Republic and symbolized the equality of the blacks and the whites under the leadership of Nelson Mandela. This auspicious day came after the sacrifices of thousands of people. The author thought of himself the sum of all those people who sacrificed their lives for the liberty of black people. He was pained that he couldn't thank those patriots. Then the policy of apartheid created a lasting wound in his country and his people, Nelson Mandela thinks on this occasion. This policy of apartheid had produced great freedom fighters, which is a positive outcome of this policy of apartheid. And these freedom fighters were like Oliver Tambos, Walter Sissolis, Chief Lithulius, Yusuf Dadus, etc. They were men of uncommon courage, wisdom, and generosity. The country was rich in minerals, but Nelson Mandela says that its greatest wealth was its people. From these people, the author, that is Nelson Mandela, learned the meaning of courage. These people risked their lives. They underwent great torture. He learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the victory over it. And ultimately, blacks have got victory over their fear. They have got rid of the white supremacy. The author says that no one is born hating another person due to color or religion. They could be taught to love. Love comes naturally to the human heart. In prison, they were pushed to the wall, but he saw humanity in the hearts of many white guards over there. It was man's essential goodness, and it can't be put out. This lesson Mr. Nelson Mandela learned over there in his prison time. In life, every man has twin duties: to his family and to his community and country. The author found it difficult to fulfill these two duties. It was because a colored man in South Africa was punished if he lived like a human being and tries to perform both the duties. Such a man was forced to live apart from his own people and family. So he was not allowed to do his duties to his family. He suffered a lot because of this. The author knows that he was born free. He was not born with a hunger to be free. He was free as long as he obeyed his father and obeyed the customs of his tribe. But soon he realized that his freedom was an illusion. He began to hunger for freedom when it was taken from him. As a student, he wanted freedom to read and go, which he got. As a young man in Johannesburg, he wanted freedom to be as per his potential, and he got that freedom too. He also wanted the freedom of livelihood of his own and of family, and he achieved that freedom also. But very soon, Nelson Mandela saw that he was not free as his brothers and sisters belonging to the black community were not free. He was also not free. Then he joined the African National Congress to attain that freedom for the blacks also. His hunger for freedom became great for the freedom of his people. The desire for the freedom of his people to live with dignity gave him power. It made him bold. It made him live like a monk. The chains on his people became chains for him too, and he wanted to get rid of those chains of slavery. Mandela does not think that the oppressor is free because, according to him, an oppressor is a victim of hatred who is behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness because he inflicts tortures on the oppressed. He realizes that both the oppressor and oppressed are robbed of their humanity and peace, and they both need to be liberated. So this is the gist of the chapter Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. So dear students, this is all for today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will discuss about yet another important topic from your syllabus. Till then, my dear students, as usual, stay home, save lives. Thank you very much and namaskar.